Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 47 of the NTS Podcast. We're lucky to be joined by Foxdrop on this episode, and we almost, just before recording, just got into a bit of a heated debate. And it was something I did want to just preface it before we started, because it's just a bit of a touchy subject, and maybe Tom, cover your ears for a second. I'm not a fan of tea, so if we could... We'll get it out of the way, because I know you're obviously like a proud Brit and everything. So just in case, I don't want to get like halfway through the episode and then it come out and then you kick off and leave or something. So I thought, I'm going to put it out there. You know, you have to get over it if you want to carry on.
All right. So what types of tea do you dislike? How many types of tea have you tried? Because there's tea is omnipresent.
All right. So if we... English breakfast being like the obvious one here. Not a fan.
Yeah. Not a fan. And, okay.
Great for the mornings though. It's the perfect morning tea.
Do you like coffee? Do you like
I like coffee. Yeah.
You like sweet? Okay, so it's not the caffeine.
No, I just don't like the taste. Like, I've had like chamomile tea, and I don't mind it that much. But like, I would never choose to drink it. If I was offered a drink, I would never ask for it. Some like honey and lemon ones are a bit more like, I don't know. Just for a bit.
So what's the supreme tea then? Because I always think it's a Yorkshire tea. I love Yorkshire tea.
Yeah. So I have I drink fair trade because it's, you know, I do enough bad shit in my life that that just helps the conscience a little bit. But no, I've got loads of different types of tea downstairs, and I'll be honest, like they're not all that nice. Some of them do taste kind of dirty, you know, like literally like dirt. Not like dirty as in, you know, like genuinely kind of like dirt. But no, I don't know. I honestly think it's not so much the taste, but more like what it means to have a nice cup of tea. Like I'm chilled out. I'm just having a great time. It's like when I went up to Leicester to cast as well, when I was doing the UK scene back then. What was it called? Like ESL Prem. Yeah. When I was doing ESL Prem, I'd always bring some of my tea bags up there, and it was like right before the cast goes, like I'm nipping into the kitchen in the studio, and I you know, boil myself a cup of tea. They had a tap, right, which was just instant boiled water. Like I was mad. I'd never seen anything like that. But anyway, I'd have a cup of tea and it's like, that's great, you know. I'm here doing whatever, but more importantly, I've got my cup of tea. It's like it's just brilliant. You just can't go wrong with that. And like when I'm streaming, sit down to start stream, it's like I've got my cup of tea, like excellent. Chucking a few rich tea biscuits here and there, and you just that's what it's about, you know. That's what it's about.
If tea was a clanger, I'll have another one. Rich teas are my least favorite biscuit by far.
What the hell is wrong with you?
Which I think might be linked to just not. I think it might be linked to just not liking tea, because I'm pretty sure it's literally in the name that, you know, you drink it with.
Yeah,
tea.
That's true.
And
yeah, but they're great by themselves anyway. Okay. So what? So where custard creams, bourbons? Where do you land?
Basically, every other biscuit. I love every other biscuit.
Okay.
I just really don't. I think rich teas are just so bland, and I can never imagine choosing a rich tea over anything else.
Stop digging yourself a hole here. Stop digging yourself like. I have rich tea with anything. I think they're just great. I think they're so easily snackable as well. I think they're just brilliant.
That's the thing as well. I think as I've gotten older, I mean I'm 27. I'm not like ancient, but I'm getting there. To be fair, in esports term, I think, you know, when I was younger, I used to like the sweeter stuff, but now as I'm getting older, I prefer more bitter stuff. And I can't binge eat things like chocolate or sweets or crisps. It just does me in. But rich tea is something. I mean, to be fair, it does me in anyway. But it's something I can tolerate to binge a bit more, because it's not too sweet, it's not too whatever. It's just nice and chill, you know. So that's, maybe I'm just very basic, you know.
So right, everything is taste of stuff. It's subjective, isn't it? We've got different taste buds.
It is subjective, but you are also objectively wrong. So there's a bit of both in there.
I don't even think we need to talk about League of Legends or anything. We'll just go into everything British.
It's another tier list episode of biscuits.
Oh,
I think my top one would even be a bit controversial as well, actually.
Was it Munch who did the tier list of biscuits or a tier list of something? and
Yeah,
I
I
wanted
believe it
to.
was.
I was gonna knock his door down. I don't know what it was, but I was not happy.
It's gotta be. I love a chocolate digestive. It's so I think chocolate digestive is like S tier.
Yeah,
It is the what should have been BTXL of a tier list in terms of tier list rankings.
right. Fair enough.
Let's
What's
Oh yeah, go ahead.
sorry? I'll wrap up the biscuit conversation here. Just saying, digestives. Okay, not a huge fan by themselves, but great ingredient. So if you're ever making any kind of biscuit based thing, my dad
Cheesecake
does a
or
great my girlfriend does a great cheesecake that's digestives, and that is poggies AF. And then my dad does a like a Rocky Road thing, so it's like, you know,
Oh,
chocolate on the top
Mhm.
and the biscuit bottom. Digestives are where it's at for that. I'll just say that.
I like them for Dunkin' as well. In my coffee, not in my tea.
yeah, not in your
Yeah,
tin. Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on before it gets heated again. So thanks for joining us, obviously, and for anyone that hasn't seen an episode before, what we usually do if we've got someone on that's not been on before, we just do like a bit of an interview kind of bit at the start, just for anyone that somehow doesn't know who you are, they can kind of get in a bit of an intro and know how you came to be the LEC caster that you are today. Now with yourself, obviously you kind of started out like with YouTube mainly, right? And been doing that for quite a while. So what was kind of I don't have to word it, like you started YouTube in like 2012, I think, when I went to your channel, which went oldest to newest. So I presume that's
Yeah.
kind of when it more or less started. And by that stage, because like when you hear like like famous YouTubers and successful YouTubers, they would say like, I just did it for fun and I never thought I'd be here where I am today. But then like starting in 2012, by that time there were proper YouTubers, and it was like a thing you could go into it trying to be a YouTuber at that stage. Was that when you started? Did you ever have that thought that
No.
maybe you were aiming for that, or?
Not at all. My aspirations for YouTube was purely like, yeah, I'm playing a lot of League of Legends. I got good at League of Legends, and I just thought, screw it, I'll just make some videos and just for the fun of it. And yeah, so I fit precisely into your first description there of you just start it up, have fun, and then things go, and they keep going, and then they keep going, and then before you know it, you're just you're a YouTuber, I guess. It becomes your career.
I think it's funny as well because I feel like everybody should start that way. Like I feel like if you go into it and be like, right, I'm doing this not to have fun, not to enjoy myself, but to be a YouTuber, you're never gonna do it, because at the end of the day, you've got to enjoy what you make. It's got to be something that you love and you do for it. It's
Yep.
why we just chat about the UK scene for some random reason, every week. It's just because we enjoy it.
Number one thing I would say for any kind of like self-employed or freelance thing is passion, 100%. So if you're not motivated, if it's not something you really enjoy doing, you just won't stick to it. You won't do it. You won't do what's necessary, because it's so hard to really force yourself to to do what you need to do to like grow a channel, to be consistent, all that kind of stuff. But if you're passionate about it and you enjoy it, you just do it anyway. Like you don't even think about it. But I've noticed that as time's gone on for me, as you say, starting in 2012, which is bloody hell almost a decade ago now. That's madness. But yeah, like I loved it back then. It was great. And but now, as I've been playing League for like 10 years, I guess, and doing YouTube and streaming for a long ass time as well. It is sometimes I'm just like, I really can't be asked to play League today. I don't want to play League today, or I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And then I just found myself, it's just, even though I'm doing the same thing, it's a whole nother dynamic, and I really had to like force myself to do stuff. And then it just wasn't it wasn't bringing me that much happiness. But I mean, it was still like, I still enjoyed doing it. It's more like breaking the inertia of like actually forcing myself to sit down and press record, or sit down and plan things out and that kind of stuff. When I'm doing it, I'm still enjoying it. And, I don't wish I was doing something else. But it is also what really, really drew me to casting. Was just, I took a break from streaming because I was doing EU Masters. This was last spring, so about a year ago now, actually. And I had like a week or two like off streaming, so to speak, just to do the just do EU Masters, and I was like, I just love this too much, and it ruined streaming for me. Because then when I tried to come back, I was like, yeah, this isn't giving me the same jam. And so yeah, then I was just really quite dedicated to trying to make casting happen, and now I've been given another shot to do LEC stuff, so I'm very fortunate for that.
Yeah, sounds good. And just to go back onto the YouTube thing, just for a second, because one thing like I noticed when I was like looking at kind of just like going through some of your older videos and how you started, it was like, and kind of still is really like educational stuff, but you kind of see like the bigger league YouTubers these days, it's like pretty much all just like stream highlights, or like pro players just streaming, pay someone to edit their highlights, or Tyler One doing it, like people like that. What do you think that do you have any idea sort of why it ended up veering towards that, or is it just maybe kind of a bit easier to do that kind of thing?
Yep.
Because
it's just business, man.
Yeah.
It's like if you can put in so stream highlights are just double dipping. It's normally that comes from like full-time streamers who then are like, yo, I'm now going to earn even more money from streaming by uploading my highlights onto YouTube. And it's like, if you can get, let's say, random numbers, but let's say you earn £100 for making a video, but you can pay someone like 50 quid to sort it all out for you. Well, that's all right. It's literally, you're just printing 50 quid doing nothing because you've already played the games when you're streaming. Yeah, exactly. Like it, and that's just really, really simple. Outside of that, I think the algorithm on YouTube, that's always been really funky, like up and down, because I remember, I think it was around 2015, when like the notification bell and stuff started coming in, and they changed the algorithm so that essentially it made the kind of like clickbaity videos more popular. YouTube really cared about whether or not people were clicking on your video. And the more clickbaity the thumbnail and the title was, the more likely someone would click it. And then YouTube's like, that's a great video, people really like this, I'm going to show it to more people. And then that's how people just absolutely blew up like that. Like Profresco would be the biggest one that comes to mind, and even like someone like Solar and Nixon Only, Red Mercy, Bunny Foo Foo, these kind of people. There's loads of them, honestly. That's so many that's still big now that, we're doing that kind of stuff and even still do. And yeah, I just for me specifically, I think there definitely wasn't like an even reward compared to time put into the content. Now, some people are really salty about that. Some people are like, that's trash content. You're not even trying and you're getting all the views. And here I am making quality content and no one's watching. YouTube sucks. It's just like, I mean, you can be aggy about that if you want, but it's just how it works. Like if you look at TV shows, what's the most popular TV show since the dawn of time? Like EastEnders. People watch that shit. It's just how it is. And like, why are the Kardashians so popular? And why, like, it's just how it is. That's just life. People just consume that kind of media, and then you can get on your high horse about it and pretend to be superior, or you can just accept that's just how it is, and people like what they like, and they, that's life. So for me, I was on the side of putting more time into my content, just wasn't worth it because people just weren't watching. Who's gonna watch Season 7 Lee Sin runes and masteries compared to, oh my goodness, my Lee Sin did this in my game, I can't.
How does Riot allow this?
10,000%, 10,000 IQ Lee Sin play. It's what I
saw this and now I'm pregnant. Like, it's obvious which one people are going to click more of. And so I think that's just, people just making money. People want to grow on YouTube, they just play the game, and that's how you play the game, really, is you just make that kind of content.
So is it like when that sort of change started happening that you started getting involved with streaming more, or was that just something that you kind of always done around the same time?
Yeah, I'd always So I think, you know, YouTube and streaming do kind of go hand in hand to a certain extent. And I was always doing a bit of streaming. I think it was like every other day I'd be streaming, but I definitely wasn't full-time streaming. I was more on full-time on YouTube. And then when was it? I got a contract with Facebook. I think it was like 2018. I was with them for about like a year, maybe a year and a half. And that contract, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg's bottomless wallet, you know, as you can imagine. So that was like, okay, so I don't have to do YouTube anymore. I don't have to do anything anymore. I just stream and then I'm sorted. So then I really tried out doing full-time streaming because I do as much. There are benefits to doing YouTube over streaming, and there are benefits to doing streaming over YouTube. YouTube, you've got to plan your content out. You've got to like work on it, and it's kind of like writing a. It's like coursework, whereas streaming is like an exam, you know. And I was always someone who preferred the exam to the coursework because coursework is homework and effort and whatever. The exam, you show up, you sit your ass down, and you pray to God, you know, and just hope everything goes well. So I like that about streaming. But obviously, on the other hand, like YouTube, you can, if your sleep schedule is absolutely mullered, then at 4 a.m. you can still work on a YouTube video and just schedule it to release at human time. Whereas if your sleep schedule is screwed on streaming, well, you have a stream schedule, you can't stream at 4 a.m. No one's awake, you know. So anyway, there are pros and cons, and for me, you know, I started doing the full-time streaming on Facebook, and then when I came off of Facebook, I still wanted to do full-time streaming, but on Twitch. And yeah, then I got into casting again and realized actually this is not really where I want to be right now. And yeah, so that's when I started transitioning more into casting.
Yeah.
So I think with casting is what I find really interesting itself is that what kind of, would you say that kind of casting kind of brought back kind of that passion kind of League of Legends and with just the community in general? Because sometimes that I seem to find with a lot of people who I know anyways, that they'll say that they've done something so long that they thought that the game was the problem when actually it was the way that they were kind of using the game and the content they were delivering from the game itself. It's just interesting to see kind of someone go again from kind of YouTube to casting. We see it a lot, like in esports as well. Like you see kind of casters then become team managers and then become like, you know, owners of CEOs and everything. You know, it's esports especially seems to be the multiple roles around one game where normally it's not like that. It's normally one role around multiple kind of sectors.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point, and I think it's very true. Like League of Legends is the industry, I guess, and you can fill so many roles in that industry. And yeah, I think I am still very passionate about League. Whenever I'm casting, I'm like, man, I should really start playing solo queue again because I loved it when I was good at League. I loved the competitive side of solo queue, queuing up and having like pro players on your team, playing against pro players, and just like that was great. And then having pro players gas you up and stuff, like that was always like I loved that. I loved that so much. It just made I just had loads of fun playing League when it was like that. And then, you know, it's putting more time into YouTube and streaming, and I got pretty washed up. And because I'm just, again, it's a passion thing, you know, like if I was really, really passionate about wanting to get better, then I would do what was needed to get better, like VOD reviewing my games, or, you know, like limiting my champion pool and not playing brand jungle and not playing first timing Viego in ranked, you know. But I just, when I really think of it, it's like, yeah, I feel there's a little thing there, like almost like a little ember, you know, of me wanting to do that, but it's not enough to catch fire. But when I'm casting, you know, that's just an inferno, you know, and I love it. I love casting, and I love that side of League and being able to kind of talk about it and break it down. And I love chatting shit. I think that's one of the things that one of the skills I developed very nicely as a YouTuber and as a streamer. And I feel like in League of Legends casting especially, it's very analytical focused. So for me to bring a different style of casting, I just love it. I love being able to do that, and I love yeah, I'm just really looking forward to doing more, honestly, this year.
So when you started out, just even sort of here and there with ESL and the ESL Prem, is that well, how did that start really? Did they approach you, or is that something you just kind of thought about doing and looked to see, where you could start?
Yeah, it was the latter. I think it was around 2017, I'm gonna say. I just emailed the ESL guys and I was like, yo, if you ever need a caster, because I was probably one of the biggest like UK content creators at the time. I do educational stuff, seemed like a good match really. I was like, oh, it'll be fine, I'll just go up there and whatever. And then they got back to me and was like, yeah, actually we don't have anyone for this week if you want to come on. The guy this week's ill. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I go up and just did it. And I had fun. And I remember, and then they invited me back whenever people couldn't make it to the show. And I'd go and I had fun. And then so let's say that was like, I get my timeline a bit muddled, but then when like the next, say that was maybe spring, and then in summer I started going up like every week, and I realized I was like, wait, I don't want to take someone's spot. Like I'm just going up here and I'm chatting shit. I don't want to like.
This guy's been ill for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. Like is no one gonna check in on this guy or what? Like, and I felt like I was just, like so I was not a career caster. I didn't see myself as a caster. I was like a special guest. I go up there and whatever, and then they're like, "No, actually, I think you're one of the better ones here." So I was like, "Oh, cool." And then E Masters came around, and I did that. And then Wright was like, "Oh, I think you're pretty cool as well." And then EULCS came around, and I did that. And so it was really quite a fast transition, honestly, from just going into content into casting. I didn't think, like I said, when I reached out, I got in touch with people and I was just like, this will be fun. And then before I knew it, I was actually doing it properly.
And what was that like then? Because like well, not to sort of demean the UK players that obviously we sit here and watch and talk about every week as well, but with that then you went from like ESL Prem, and then at EU Masters it was like Insec, Froggen and like Forgiven.
Oh god,
casting in the final. Was there even any pressure? Or
I don't even know, man. Like that's. I remember.
I forgot that Insec was at EU Masters.
Actually, funny story with that as well. My a friend of mine got, because you see, like Froggen was obviously in NA, and then had come to EU. I think he had a split with no team. He came to EU, and that was before EU Masters. And as he was climbing his account back up, a friend of mine is in Platinum and got him on his team while he was climbing up, and lost the game with Froggen on his team.
He lost with from his team. That reminds me of another story. I'll tell you that in a bit after I've answered your question. But yeah, like the EU Masters that year was. Okay. So I know that Expect was on the team as well. Expect spoke English from his time in EU playing with G2, and I told him to tell Insec that like I was a massive fanboy of Insec. And he told him in Korean, and then Insec was like, smile, thumbs up. I do remember that. I remember casting a game of Insec. I was like freaking out because like this is Insec, right? And he did the Insec, and I just yelled out, Insec! I just remember yelling it out. Like I didn't call the play. I wasn't like, I just went mad. Yeah, I didn't really think of it as pressure necessarily, because I've never really. I had never put pressure on myself, because still, even at that point, I didn't consider myself a caster. I went up to have fun. Where's the pressure? I'm not a caster. I'm just a YouTuber coming here to chat shit. Like, there's no pressure there. And yeah, like, oh my goodness, that was some good memories though. That 2018 EU Masters, that was a lot of fun.
I think as well, like EU Masters it's so different than what it is now. Like when it was first like a thing. Like you look at it now, and you look at EU Masters, you think like player development. These are like the next stars. Well, genuinely, like you just had teams like this of just like, yeah, we're just gonna do it. Like let's just have a go. It was such a different ecosystem back then, and it's so weird to see EU Masters have this kind of change of like an ethos essentially for what it is now.
Yeah. Well, even the very next EU Masters, which would be in 2018 summer, Mad Lions won.
Mm-hmm.
And firstly, Mad Lions in the LEC now as an organization. Secondly, the lineup was like Whirlib top, Self-Made Jungle, Nemesis, Crown Shot, and oh goodness,
Oh no.
Was it Falco or something maybe? I don't know. But there's basically 4 of those guys then went into SK.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, sorry,
3 of them,
Nemesis
yeah,
was
yeah.
Nemesis was Fnatic. But 4 of them were in LEC, 3 of them were in SK. It's like, yeah, you do see a lot of I reckon every single team has an ex EU Masters player. Sorry, every LEC team definitely has at least one ex EU Masters player. I'm trying to think, like, Fnatic's got Self-Made. I don't know if G2 actually. I don't think
I
G2
think that's
has.
probably the only one, more or less.
Yeah, they're probably the only one. But Rogue have always been dominant in EU Masters, and their academy system has always produced loads of talent. And just now, they finally won in 2020 summer, so that was nice for them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like it's crazy how much talent actually there is in the Masters. Funny enough, Taliyah as well was one who this year last year I should say, sorry, in 2020 spring and summer, I think he won with LDLC. I think he was on LDLC when they won in spring. But I remember watching him, like he was mega hyped up coming into EU Masters, like, because there's so many regions. As casters for the EU Masters broadcast, we have to find out info from people who know a lot more than us, because there's no way we can keep tabs on like 12 different regions coming in, like all the players. Everyone was hyping up Vitero. Everyone, like he is the 17-year-old god in the mid lane, and every time he was at E-Masters, he was really bad, in my opinion. He was underwhelming as hell. Maybe it's just because of the expectation that I had on him, but he really didn't impress me. And so then when I saw Misfits picked him up in the off season, I was like, this is gonna be really interesting because he's so young. I like it overall, because like anyone that young, you can shape and mold. If the talent's there, I reckon you can make it happen. But if he was struggling on the big stage, bear in mind E-Masters was still online. Yeah, it was online at that point. I don't know how he's going to do in LEC, but hey, he definitely shut me up in that first game on Zoe.
But it did help when he was literally played his favorite champion.
Yeah,
I think it was Megalodonis who tweeted that like his Zoe, he's like not lost in Zoe. It was some ridiculous stat in like Zoe. And it's like, how did they not think of just even like potentially banning it? But then they didn't ban it in the next game as well, I believe, Misfits, and they didn't even pick it. So I guess he didn't want to. He'd already had his highlight, and he was like, right, well, I'm not going to pick that one again.
100% win rate. Woo! Just leaves. Yeah, maybe.
Well, then on the topic of the LEC, then, so was it obvious when you got given the first chance on that broadcast? Because I remember I'm pretty sure it was like while EU Masters was still ongoing, like I would see people on, like, I think it was like on Twitter and on the streams and stuff, were basically saying for you to be on the LEC, and then once it was announced, it was like, okay, there we go, now we know he is. Did it seem as obvious for you, or was that something that was arranged fairly early on?
I don't think it was obvious for me. I was getting a lot of love on like Reddit and stuff like that.
Because I think Quickshot was on that EU Masters as well, which I think made it like more of putting two and two together.
Yeah. I think Medic was on it as well, but maybe only for like the group stage or something like that. I think Quickshot joined later. I think it was something like that. Oh yeah, I actually remember Officio was meant to be on it too, but they didn't bring him in the end. So I was like, Officio here. So obviously he's a big cheese back then. I mean, he still is, but you know what I mean? Like, but yeah. So I had some good casts and had a lot of fun. I still remember one of my lines from E-Masters. This is the thing, is I would make this up on the spot. Don't ask me where this comes from. But I remember, I don't even know the teams or who did it, but it was an Ornn. I remember it was an Ornn. So big team fight happens around Dragon. Ornn's pushing top lane. He's got TP up. Doesn't TP in. Team loses 4v5. And I just said, I'm glad nobody's asking Ornn to pay respects, because I don't think his F key is working. So, and it was just like, I was just, that was just that was the environment I was in. I was just chilled out. I was having fun. I was having absolute bollocks. And it was that, I think it had been mentioned to me that Quickshot said to me that the producers back in Berlin were like quite impressed. And then it was at the after party where I said to him, do you want to have a talk about things? Maybe we can do it. And he said, listen, I've got to go, but I'm going to make you an offer. I remember he said that. And I was like, yeah, no,
It's like
right.
movie. It's like a movie scene.
Yeah. It wasn't
Camera
that
narrowed.
dramatic.
Back alley somewhere.
Fun fact, actually, at that after party as well, Selfmade, absolutely wankered, came up to me and said something like, don't you know who I am, or something. And I was like, no, because I didn't. Like, at that point in time, like, you know, he made top 4, but he wasn't in the finals, and I didn't know anything about, you know, I didn't know anything about Selfmade or anyone really. And he was bragging about who's the best jungler in Europe or something like that. And I was like, of course you are. You know, sure, mate. And hey, fucking hell, now he is the best jungler in Europe.
Fair play
So
to
whatever
him,
yeah, give that to him.
On kind of going to the current split then, obviously like you're part of the broadcast now, but I suppose with Corona can't quite get out there at the moment. But I just want to talk about just what we've at least seen the first couple of days. I think there's games going on right now, so obviously we can't talk about those and take those into account. But being a jungler, I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are on Dan and what you've seen from him, because he was one when it got announced, there was like loads of trash talk about it on Reddit, and then like everyone, I feel like from the UK scene or people that follow the NLC knew that he had obviously the total opposite opinion like we do as well, thinking that, you know, all of this is people just chatting rubbish and have never seen him play really, other than maybe that one Rift Rivals game. So what do you make of that signing? Do you see that that should be a success? Or?
So to be totally honest, I think when I watch Dan play, he seems to always outpass the enemy junglers, and it's like when it's like a game of chess, he wins, you know. And I always respected that about him, watching him at like Masters or watching him in the UK scene. Like he was quite clearly the better jungler, and his pathing was really good. But I never like when he was playing on Fnatic Rising, right, mostly. So whenever Fnatic would have problems and they wouldn't be able to win, that is a pretty big problem when you can't win. But it was, you know, Dan didn't seem like an impact player, you know, like it didn't look like he's trying his hardest, but his team sucks. It wasn't like that. And I don't think he was like the worst performer. It's just like he didn't seem to like elevate his team necessarily, be that X factor, give his team that kind of like push and that kick to really succeed. But that's not necessarily like I don't really hold a fair criticism. I don't want to hold that against him necessarily, because I think as a jungler, that's kind of expected. If your team's a little bit deflated, then it's kind of hard to stand out. I think only the truly exceptional talents stand out as junglers when their team is bad. I can think of Selfmade off the top of my head, but outside of that, there are really not a lot of junglers that look good when your team doesn't look good. So I always thought Dan wasn't quite able to take it to the next level, and I wanted to see, because if he was in LEC, especially with the XL lineup, I think there's a lot of expectation or a lot of pressure on him to perform, because the rest of the XL lineup's either new, like Checkerlad, and Cries is still pretty new, let's be real, or like, you know, Torres can be hit and miss. Patrick's brilliant, but you know what I mean, like, it's definitely a roster where you need to be a great player, because you can't just rely on Patrick for the whole split. And yeah, I'll be honest, like his Graves game, I just didn't like that, because when he got 2 kills early, and Graves is a champion where you sit in the driving seat as the jungler, and the meta right now is absolutely about doing that as well. And you want to take the game on your back, and you want to be the focus, you know. And for junglers like Tinks, who've come into the league, junglers like Selfmade, it's like the 5th time I said his name, but still, he just perfectly fits the meta right now. Junglers like that, it's brilliant. And then when you get more like control style metas, those kind of players suck. You watch them and they're just because they just can't play a supporty style. But right now, when you don't need to, and you can be really greedy, and you can be really selfish, you know, those players shine. And I think Dan is much more suited to the more control style, you know, where he can just outpath, out pressure. But I haven't really been haven't seen from him an ability to really, be that oomph for his team, and especially in the current meta, I don't think it really suits him either. So I don't want to like shit on him too much or just write him off or anything like that. But I think I'm a little bit on the middle as far as the opinions of Dan go.
I think it's I think what's the most interesting thing with Dan is that I think we've always said this is that Dan is like, he was one of the best facilitators I thought in ERLs. Like he's great at facilitating the team and making that team I think look really really good and kind of boosting that team. The issue is with that is that you've got to have a great team kind of around you and a team of like stars essentially. So I kind of hope that with kind of XL, like Youngbuck had obviously dealt with him prior, and now he's brought him into XL. So I'm wondering if they're wanting to work on a different style with Dan. I think if Dan can get kind of a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more of that kind of carry potential in like the long run, I think he's a really really good jungler, a really really good jungler in the LEC because we know that he can play these facilitators. It's just kind of needing that a little bit more aggression, I think, from him. But so it's I always look at XL and I guess this is because the ethos and the kind of the branding that they always say is that they're a side that likes to develop talent and maybe this is kind of one of those where they brought him in to think we want to kind of push him a different way. And I guess probably sticking him in, back, in the academy team probably isn't going to work for Dan at this point. I think because he knows that he can kind of play to a level in the ERLs, but to actually push himself, he probably needs to be in the LEC. It is very baptism by fire, though. I completely agree.
I think
okay. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was going to say because I seen him say like he had a few offers as well. So I don't know if he would have had tryouts or whatnot. It might be that he felt like he fitted best with the XL lineup, or that they could help him sort of kick on. Can only hope so. But yeah, that win that they had yesterday, which was the first win, it wasn't really convincing to say the least. So I think they played G2 today, right, as well. So that would be maybe more of like a test to see what level they're actually at, because one win, one loss hasn't been like overly convincing so far.
Yeah, I think Dan needs time as well, just to really judge him. I think that's an obvious statement to say, but anytime we've seen Dan at the top flight, he's we've seen him like once, twice.
Like a couple games in Rift Rivals.
Yeah, exactly. And then the E-Masters games, you only get a handful of those each year, so and just to stick with the squad.
Some of them are with Chibs as well, so
right. So I just love to see what he can do over like a split or even a year, and I hope they don't, XL doesn't give up on him or anything like that too early.
Definitely. Who do you see as like some of the stronger teams at the moment then? Because like Fnatic, it feels like have dropped off quite a bit. Like obviously they've lost Reckless, and then I don't know if you saw like before their game yesterday, there was like they played Rogue yesterday, and before the match there was like a video of how Bwipo was saying, we're going to prove that we don't rely on Reckless anymore and all this, and then they kind of just got smacked. And to be fair, they do at the moment look like they did rely on Reckless a bit. And just when you look at the lineup, it's like kind of hard to see who's going to be the like the star player, other than maybe Selfmade, I suppose. But the rest doesn't kind of seem like they're on that level anymore. And to be fair, it looks more like Rogue would be the better chance of anyone challenging G2 right now.
Yeah, for sure. At this point, definitely Rogue is the second best team from what we've seen so far in LEC. It's interesting with Fnatic because you do lose. I think anytime you swap out mid laner, you lose a lot of like dynamic in a team. Because I think mid lane tends to kind of set the middle of the map. They tend to be around a lot of stuff as far as early game strategy and that kind of thing. So getting Nisqy in, I think stylistically, by the way, Nisqy fits Selfmade quite well, because I view Nisqy as more like a facilitating type mid laner, and in this meta, when you just want to give everything to Selfmade, you can 1,000,000% do that, and Nisqy can sort that out perfectly. But yeah, I think it's going to take a bit of time, but I do think Upset is a good player, and I still don't want to give up on Fnatic just yet. And I was watching Bwipo stream last night, and he said something like the biggest problem is they played scrims, or it almost felt like a bit of a backhanded comment, I'll be honest, but he said something like he was under a certain impression from his scrims of what his role in the team should be.
Mm-hmm.
And then from the stage games, he realized that's not the case, and he needs to be more front and center. So reading between the lines there, if you want to, be a bit gritty about it, we play great in scrims, but on stage, my team sucks. But just in general, I think I'm oversimplifying that a lot. But either way, it's I think that's kind of the idea is at this point, yeah, it does. You've changed your mid laner, you've changed your bot laner. How is your team meant to play? How does your team function? And I think those are questions you just answer as the split goes on. Hopefully, they find the answers before it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's one question that I kind of want to ask before we probably go into like the NLC. Is there any kind of like, I mean, I'm gonna say this because and you obviously you can answer, so you can say that you don't know. Is there any kind of UK players who you think are actually going to take the next step up? Because obviously we've just seen it with Dan. I think there's only one name which I can think of, but I don't want to say it yet in case it's the one which you say. But is there any kind of like actual UK talent you kind of see thinking, maybe not next split, but like the split after could potentially kind of go into a side?
I think X Matty has the best chance.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, to be honest though, like outside of that, I mean, Deadly maybe is like up there as well. He's been knocking about the regional leagues for a while though, and he hasn't really. Yeah, I think I kind of view X Matty quite similar to Dan actually. I think they look great on their teams, but I haven't really seen them take the next step.
I think there's a couple of up and comers in the Spanish league as well. Max Law and Kasing, I think their names.
Oh yeah. Keep your eyes on those.
Definitely.
I think as well.
I
think as well with X Matic going into the LFL. As much as we'd love the NLC to be the best ERL, you look at the LFL now, and it is stacked. And if X Matic can do something in the LFL, I think that's probably the way he's going to get noticed. I think at this point now, because he's done. He did it at Fnatic. I don't think anybody was ever a doubt of kind of X Matic's ability at Fnatic Rising, and I think he kind of realized at this point, either I don't know, obviously if it was Fnatic's choice or X Matic's choice, but probably he thought. The LFL is a big opportunity, and if you can make your name, we've seen the viewership in the LFL kind of explode.
That's mad.
Your name is getting out there at this point now, and it's a good side which he's got as well.
Yep, I think it's his best chance of moving up for sure.
Yep.
And he's back with Targamas, so I loved X Matty with Targamas. I thought that was great. Well,
let's maybe move on to the NLC then. Obviously, we just had the first week, and you were on the cast Foxdrop. Firstly, just on the kind of casting perspective, how was it? Do you notice casting for different leagues or different tournaments? Is there ever like a big difference, like even just how the atmosphere is or anything like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, so I was only on AD, so I don't like doing AD. I'm not that good at AD in general. It's never been my strong suit. But doing it online is really tough actually, because it's surprising how much you rely on kind of like in person. What's the word I'm looking for?
Like cues
mannerisms and stuff. Yeah. So you can just tell when someone wants to talk, and you can tell like the flow of the conversation. It's a lot easier, but online, it's really not easy to do that. So you have like a text channel where you'll type like T for talk, and that means that person wants to talk next. But it just, for me, that just keeps that, it makes the flow of conversation quite, I don't want to say artificial, but it just, I guess there just isn't much of a flow. It's like, okay, it's your turn now. Okay, now you said you wanted to say something. It's your turn now. And I just think having a natural conversation, it's really hard to do that in an online setting. So there's that as my initial response. But as far as like different broadcasts and stuff, I think it's kind of hard to answer, because the NLC's talent I work with a lot at Masters as well, so I'm definitely not unfamiliar with them. Excuse me, LLC, not NLC, LLC is there's a lot more like, I mean, they literally script out the entire show, not the results, but they flesh out the entire. Okay, we're going to talk about this now and this now and this now, and then you rehearse it, and it's like it's all on telestrators and stuff. Like, so that's obviously very different. And then yeah, the NLC, it's like call time is 4:30, and then at 4:35. Orcs pops in and was like, sorry, I was taking a shit. It's like, is that kind of vibe. I like that, honestly, though, like, because it is, it's a smaller scale operation, and it also, we have a flow of show, we have ideas what we want to talk about, but it keeps it natural. I personally like it when you don't over rehearse things, because I like, I just find it allows some more like organic conversation. Makes things feel less less rigid and stuff like that. So it's definitely a nice break.
I'd have anxiety me, because I'd be like, right, I want to talk about this point that someone else is saying, and then they'd switch point halfway through, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't want to talk about that one. I don't know about that one.
And you've already pressed T now.
Just gonna go back to this point. Yeah.
I mean, that happens. You'd be surprised. Like, there's a point and you want to just like say something, put your thingy in, and then the host is like, yeah, that's really cool. And so looking forward to the next game. We go, so Foxdrop, what do you think about that? It's like, oh, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I kind of feel, especially for like Scoundrel, because being the host, like, you've got to, he's especially kind of got to keep the flow going. And you can kind of tell sometimes. And I suppose with it being online as well, there's like a slight bit of a delay, so he's kind of gives it a second to see if someone's going to maybe talk, and then
those are the worst.
And then after he realized no one's going to talk, he's got to think of where to lead it to, and like,
you're always talking over each other in that situation. Like, it's just that's what I mean. I think, if you're in person, you very rarely get those scenarios, but it happens all the time online.
Well, let's maybe talk about some of the actual games and what we actually saw on the Rift, if you like. Maybe just starting with Group A, and then we'll talk a bit about Group B afterwards. Just coming from Group A, one of obviously the kind of big stories was Granit getting a win, which I suppose was kind of like against what anyone thought they might even do the whole split, to be fair.
Hey, we had faith in them. We had complete faith in them. We didn't put them in D tier.
I didn't predict them, though, to be fair.
Yeah, we did our tier list last week, and they were our 1 D tier team, and the coach, Aragorn, I think his name was, like, retweeted it about how everyone's either putting them D tier or just put in a separate tier of randoms just for them, because literally no one knows who they even are. And then they come out, beat Godsent. Obviously Sahira did that interview afterwards as well, popping off. And they're basically like the new Godsent now. Like, everyone wrote them off, and then literally first week they pick up a win, and everyone's like, oh, okay, maybe they are actually half decent. But what do you make of it? Could that be maybe a one-off that they just caught Godsent on an off day? Because I don't know. I think they played, wasn't it, Excel afterwards as well? And
I don't think they looked bad against Excel as well. They looked quite good at Excel for a point.
Yeah,
they got the Red Dragon, and then they just threw it.
I agree. No, for a team, for a potential D tier / random tier team, they played good against BTXL for sure. It's really hard to say, obviously, just with like week 1 and everything. But I think Sahira is actually pretty good. I don't like the memes and stuff because he is whatever, and he did carry me in solo queue. But legit, he was obviously very good versus Godsent, and even against BTXL, where he was put on a champion, he was playing Victor, I think. And it wasn't, he showed he's not a one trick. He did really well, and I honestly feel like he outperformed hat tricks, at least most points of the game. Hat tricks, as the game went on, did some good shockwaves and stuff. But I think Sahira was very comfortable, honestly, in that matchup. And I just think so. You got 5 teams in a group, right? And top 4 go through to playoffs, or some.
6 teams in top 4 go through.
Sorry, 6 teams. Yeah. So, considering that, do I think they can be a top 4 team in Group A? You've got BTXL, Tricked, Godsent, Granit, Dusty, and Nordavind. And I think BTXL and Tricked look quite good, but I also think Granit can beat Tricked. I think Granit and Godsent are probably pretty equal. If anything, I want to say I might give the edge to Godsent. I'm not sure if they'll lose again to Granit, but at the same time, it's kind of unfair to say that because Granit did beat them quite handily. I think they could come top 4 in that group. Like I don't think they're amazing S tier, like gonna take the stage by storm or anything like that necessarily. But honestly, I was pleasantly surprised, and as you said, even in their loss, they look pretty good. So
I think a lot of people were surprised, and I think that's what's good to see. Though it's good to see kind of a side who, let's be honest, like a lot of people had very little expectations of to win. Like the first game, I think is probably even more impressive. It's kind of like immediately, it's you're kind of proving the doubters wrong. But I think if there's one thing I kind of want to talk about in Group A, it's Nordavind 0-2. Yeah, this Nordavind side should not be 0-2. I'm saying this right now
as well.
Yeah, it's.
No, I agree with you. I think even just Chrisberg and Kerberos straight up should be able to like pull something out of the games. Chrisberg's great. I really rate Kerb as well, especially in like ERL contexts where games are quite scrappy and not as organized. And Kerb. I played Twitch Rivals with Kerb, and I can't remember what our total was. It was maybe we were like 4-2 or something like that. That's not easy going up against challengers. Like for me, I was playing. By the way, I was playing in that team, and I think we had.
I watched them. I think you had Usa as well, right? And like Bizzleberry.
Yeah, we had Usa. Yeah. Bizzleberry, Usa, myself, and I think it was Vixie in mid. I think. To be fair, I think Bizzle and Vixie are both kind of like D1/Master tier levels. But still going up against like challenges and stuff like that, it's not easy. But they're just he's a confident player, which I really like. If he's feeling it, and he doesn't tilt. That's brilliant too. But either way, like I think Nordavind's, like you say, way better than 0-2 should be. Dusty, I think looked pretty bad though. To be perfectly honest, I don't think.
I wasn't sure with Dusty because I thought like Legions was meant to be their mid laner, who was with them last year, and then he didn't play, and then.
I think they had a sub. I think Dusty had a sub. Legions was meant to be there. I think it was like South Sea or something like that. I think he was sub mid laner. I think though it's with Dusty though it's a little bit of a difficult one. So I'm like when Legions kind of comes in, hopefully we can see a little bit more of an improvement. I just want to take it back with kind of like what happened with Kerberos, because I'm someone who has like lauded the praise of Kerberos and Mummus. Like I love those two top laners. I think they're great, but when I saw them locking Shen, I was like, this is not what I kind of wanted to see from Kerberos. And so I actually kind of like took a little bit of less blame for him for the Shen. But then Wukong came in, and I was like, I feel like he should still be doing something with a little bit more with Wukong. And I felt like he really underperformed, especially against Tricked. I think everybody kind of underperformed against Tricked.
Yeah, the one thing in the Tricked draft was I believe he had a Taliyah. Did he have, or was it Nidley actually on his team in that game? I'd have to double check, but I seem to remember thinking like, and he was playing.
Yeah, it was a Taliyah in his team. Yeah,
who was he playing? Who was he up against? Was it
Nar and Lilia?
Nar. Yeah, right. So he picks Wukong into Nar. And the thing with Taliyah is like she's heavy impact early game champion, but you have to have setup for her. And how the shit do you gank a Nar with Wukong? Like he's standing, he's a range champion. Nar has 0 ganks up until level 6. And the thing is, like Nar should just absolutely body Wukong. I would imagine at least in lane because Nar is Nar, right? Even just thinking about it, if Wukong Nimbus strikes in, if he jumps in, Nar jumps out. And if Wukong doesn't jump in, Nar just whacks him with his boomerang until Wukong has to recall. So that's like an impossible lane setup. And the Shen matchup as well. I can't specifically remember who was up against that time. I think that was Renekton, I think.
That was Renekton and Taliyah. Yeah,
Taliyah, yeah. Okay. So Renekton, Taliyah. Have fun playing.
Which I can't believe ever gets put, like just in general, I can't believe I ever see a Renekton and Taliyah in the same team right now. Like that should not be allowed. Like,
no, legit. That is illegal by far. Like it's just he was not set up for any kind of success in either of those games. And the Shen game looked about as tragic as you could have expected. And I think the Wukong game honestly was a little bit better than I was expecting, because I think he had some pretty good trades into Gnar and stuff. But either way, like, I mean, I just think Curb had zero chance in those games to have any kind of success, and that's a shame, because I think he's someone you can. I don't know if you necessarily need to play around him, because I think he's the kind of player you can just sack his lane and then he gets back into it, and you know it would be fine. But I don't think, you know, the Shen into Renekton, like, you're never gonna be fine in that lane. Even as the game goes on, right, with Gordon Renekton, like, you're not gonna. It's not the like split push threat that we know Curb can be, and same for Wukong to Gnar. Not really. I guess that could maybe get a bit easier for you, but still, it's just playing versus Taliyah as well. You can't split push versus Taliyah. She's got a roll. Like, there's always that threat of the split push punish. So yeah, I just don't think Nordavind set him up very well.
No. Just get him on Yorick. That's all we need to do.
Yeah,
just let him carry on Yorick. Yeah, you could be 10k down and he'll still try and go for the
Taking,
turret. It's
yeah,
great.
Turrets,
yeah. Rework Kale as well. Get that old Kale back out there, and sorted.
And then I think kind of like one last thing with like Group A for me was Tricked. I actually was really impressed with Tricked. We had him as like C tier, because we were like, you know, they're not a bad side. You know, they'll be competing for the playoffs. But I actually was very impressed with how Tricked kind of played overall as a team. I still look at that team and I'm kind of like, I don't think there's like a major standout star, but then you've got a Chew, and I'm like, okay, he's proven me a little bit wrong, because the Chew, I think, is developing so much. We saw it last year. There was a little bit of worry because we had this thing called the pad trifecta, and it was a Chew, Soft, and Pad, because they had always been together, and that trifecta was broken, sadly. So I was like, what's a Chew gonna do now, kind of on his own? He's been led out on his own, and you know, I think he played very well both games, especially the second game against Nordavind. So I'm glad to see kind of Tricked push up. Arguably, I would say they looked better than what BT did in both of their games. I think BT were dominant to a point, but I also looked shaky, I think, quite early on in a couple of in their games, especially.
I really agree. I think if Rome. Okay, so Rome got fed in the first game, but even then they weren't using him well at all.
No, yeah.
They took top tower really early, and the problem with that was, like, now Renekton you can't threaten dives. Now Shen is just perma safe, so now he's got to move out of top lane and go to do stuff, but there was nothing for him to do. So he was literally, I was just watching him run around the minimap. He was doing laps and just doing absolutely nothing. Like, and it's not a flame on Arome at all. It's just the problem. Like, when you break top tower, the earlier Rift Hold, like, I think it's completely wasted the Renekton there. But then, fortunately for them, who were they playing against? Was it Nordavind?
Yeah, it was Nordavind. Like, BT seemed to just turn it around with like a couple team fights.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
both of those games, it was like they just had like a massive kind of defining team fight, and once it clicked, like they just carried on. But there was that synergy issue, I feel like, at the beginning.
No, I agree. Like, I think they did not look as convincing as Tricked. They could very easily have dropped any of those games, really, especially the first game. And I'm expecting so much more out of BTXL moving forward, for sure.
Definitely. Let's maybe move on to Group B then. We can start with the other academy side, Fnatic, who it's kind of hard to judge, I suppose, obviously without Pride playing. And was it Lindegaard is his name? The like 16-year-old ADC sub that's filling in for him. So the first loss to Barrage, while you can maybe take it, you know, a bit of a grain of salt that there was the sub, but at the same time it wasn't like a top gap or anything like that. They kind of got pretty.
I feel like there was a top gap. I do feel like there was a little bit of a top gap. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, no, like Moose was great, and that was a problem for Fnatic, but they just got shat on everywhere, really, didn't they? Like, it just wasn't close. Like, I was not expecting a game like that at all, and honestly, a lot of credit to Barrage, because I mean, when you look at that group, there's a good chance you don't even see them making, like, not even a top 4 team, really, on paper at least, I would say. well, maybe that's being harsh. But either way, like to beat Fnatic in your first game of the season is really good.
Mm-hmm. How long? Well, because then second game was against Kova, I think, which they obviously won. I suppose that was kind of like a lucky time for them to play against Kova. It was like a bit of a confidence booster. One thing that was kind of interesting was Febiven played Oriana in that second game, and I think when Excalibur interviewed him afterwards, he kind of said kind of asked him along the lines of like, do you feel like there's a point where you're gonna have to kind of like just pick someone to just smash the lane basically and actually just kind of bully the lane and show that you are that much better to get the LEC chance again. And he kind of said he had the idea that it'd be better to kind of just play what is actually normal still and show that he's a team player. Because one thing that I remember with kind of an example it reminded me of was with Leader, who obviously still hadn't got an LEC team. And I think it was an interview he did with Thorin where he was talking about the kind of view they have about him, where he only plays assassins and he can't play the normal stuff. And he kind of said, oh, well, I can play the normal stuff, but in the ERLs, I don't have to. It's easier to play the assassins and smash everyone. So I wonder kind of if Febiven even kind of sees, well, not necessarily saw that exact interview, but kind of has the impression, maybe it is better, even if I could win games more convincingly, at least now I can show winning them the proper way, if you like, that I am that LEC player. Do we see him sticking around the NLC for long, or could he maybe nick Niski's place in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I think both of them are LEC level mids for sure. I reckon if Fnatic keeps looking shaky, Niski will probably be the first one to get swapped out. But I think that's mostly because Febiven is also extremely competent. Like, if only just to shake up the team a little bit, and not based on performance, because I think Niski's probably been one of Fnatic's best players in the first two games. I think he's done really well, but
yeah, he's definitely not been the problem. Like,
no,
100% no.
At all. So yeah, I think like it's a good question because Febiven is the best mid by far in NLC, I would say, but he's also got the toughest competition to get to the LEC because he's behind Niski. So I have to be, I really don't have any great insight on how that one will play out. But I do think, this is the thing with Leader as well. Like, I actually watched that interview, which is kind of funny because I accidentally have prepped massively for this show because I don't watch a lot of interviews at all. I just have to watch that one. Leaders are always that people are always talking about Leaders champion pool, and it's almost like anytime you mention Leaders champion pool being like a Kali, Yone, Yasuo, whatever, and then if everything's banned, he plays Echo. And whenever you bring that up, it's an immediate backlash of that's just narrative. He doesn't do that. That's not true. But it's like you literally look at his stats. You literally look at the games. That is exactly what he does. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills whenever anyone mentions that Leader doesn't do that anymore. Leader's not that kind of champion. It's like, yes, he is. Like, he is absolutely that kind of player. Doesn't mean he can't play other stuff. And like as you say in the interview, maybe he doesn't want to play that other stuff. But even on Twitter, like, he had like a 19-game lose streak or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that.
So what does he do to change it up? He plays jungle, fair enough. Yone jungle. 2 games in a row. He wins them both. But still, it's like, like
it's not the champions. It's the role. It's the role.
Yeah, it's the role. I'm just like, obviously he definitely has a preference. I think that Febiven can play whatever the hell he wants. Even though his team looked absolutely awful in that first game, he still had, I think he had more damage than the rest of his team combined playing Lucian. It was Lucian into set, so you do get a bit like fun damage stats that way. But either way, he was good, and in that Oriana game, he was good as well. And I think honestly, Febiven's type play, he'll just smurf on people regardless. I think he can pick whatever he wants, and he'll be really, really effective.
Mm-hmm.
And also as well, what's like Leader's a different type of player in the sense of where he is at his stage of his career to Febiven. Like for me, like I think Febiven's been brought in to kind of bring, I think, a lot of leadership. I've always said that it's very similar to what happened with Kasing and XL in BTXL. It's like he's there, I think, to not only look good and be a very, very solid option if things do go wrong in the LEC, but to you would hope potentially build these players and make these players around him even better, become better. He's clearly going to be someone who's got a lot of knowledge, with just the amount of experience which he's got there as well. So him then playing assassins for me then doesn't make any sense. Like, or him playing like, just solo carry games, because then what's the team around him really learning? Oh yeah, we're just not going to do much and we're just going to let Feathervin win the game. There's a lot of development as well. It's an academy roster as well. You've got to, people forget that sometimes, I think.
True.
Yeah, for sure. I think, honestly, if I was to kind of have to be taken under wing from anyone, I think Feathervin's a really good one. I don't necessarily view Feathervin as like a peak leader necessarily. Not leader as in the guy we're just talking about. But his attitude is just, I think that's great. I think that's top class attitude. Even in that interview where that scoundrel had with him, he just seems very like, I think he would foster a mistake friendly environment, not to say that, well, I guess it's just like, if you're a rookie and you're nervous maybe, or if you're trying to learn and you don't want to mess up because you're trying to, this is your chance, this is you're kind of like, yeah, eyes are on you and you want to advance your career and stuff. I think nerves can get you. I can't imagine being nervous playing behind Feathervin. Like, not only have you got the reliability of having him on your team, but this guy does not look like he cares about much. Not in a bad way, but just like nothing gets to him. Like if you run it down in one of your games, he'll just be like, shit happens. We'll go next game.
I feel like there's a good environment, it seems, actually around Fnatic. And like I said, like, a lot of people look at it and think 1-on-1, but obviously I think with the change, the changes that happened, to go 1-on-1 is quite good, really. But I think what I find really interesting is that when Hjarnan, and this is no flame on Hjarnan, but when Hjarnan was subbed down to be the sub for BTXL, XL Academy at that point, there was that essence that he just didn't want to be there. That he kind of wanted to be LEC. He just kind of he was kind of like a shell of kind of a player of what I think he was. He just kind of was going through the paces, going through the motions, and obviously that next split he left. He's tried to work his way up since then, but Feathervin feels like a little bit different. It just feels like he actually wants to at least achieve something a little bit more and kind of have a little bit more than just, I'm going to go straight back into LEC. I think that's his goal, obviously, but I think he also understands that now he can facilitate another role as well.
Yeah,
it's fair to say.
Let's maybe look at a different team as well. Obviously, one that's I'd say probably exceeded. What's that?
The best, because it's British.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the one team exceeding expectations is the one with 3/4 of the British players, obviously, which is Singularity, which that I'm hinting at there. So they went 2-0. Let me remind myself who they played. That was against Riddle and Barrage. I suppose Riddle was one you would have probably expected them to beat on paper, but then Barrage had just come off beating Fnatic, and you'd have thought would have had their tails up, and then Singularity done them in. So I think the one thing especially quite surprising from my point of view was, and something we talked about in our tier list, was how well Dragdar's played, I think. When we talked about them in the tier list, he was kind of the one person we maybe had a bit of a question mark on, having not played at this level really. He played in the UKLC before the merger, but then that was with that demise roster that didn't turn out too well, and he played half the game support. And we weren't sure, whether he would cut it at this level, and he's looked at home. He doesn't look like he's out of his depth at all, and they've looked really good, I think.
Yeah, I think Singularity kind of surprised me all in all. And I also think they have one of the best top mids in NLC, I will say. I think Fury Wazor are actually really good. I really rate both those players. But yeah, like you say, like Dragdar and Prosper, Prosper's been around for ages, and I remember him going to Korea to boot camp to get better. Just, and he did great, and I think he honestly did improve a lot from that. And I'm definitely going to keep my eyes on them as the seasons progress, because if they are a weakness, they haven't been exploited yet. And if they're not a weakness, then holy shit, that's a great bot side. It's solos.
And I think as well, it's impressive to go deathless. Prosper obviously deathless, Nolty deathless as well. So it's like quite a good first week for the two British players. And I think Nolte as well. I feel like with all these players, I actually look at them and think, okay, these have stepped up. All of them have stepped up. We look at Prosper just being on, I think it was like Nordavind Black in LLC Fall. And I think he came on the podcast and he even said like, it just wasn't good. It really just wasn't good. And so to see him kind of have the performances which he's having now, kind of coming back with a team. And it's interesting because I remember the comments that he said, and sometimes players will just say things, but Prosper said that the reason why he boot camped is because he had offers, but he wanted to make sure that when he comes back, it's with a team that he truly believes in and that he feels like could be the best team which he could go to. And I don't know why, but I guess Team Singularity is the team which he actually believes in, whether that be Dragdar. I think Wise always looking so much better was at, I believe he was at Team Singularity last split. So it's nice to see kind of him get another shot because they were absolutely terrible last split. And then Nolte, I think we even said on the podcast last week, Nolte would not be the British jungler which I would have had in the NLC. It would have been soft. I would have gone soft over Nolte. So to see him step up and perform, there's nothing but praise I could say with all of them, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It looks like it's like GM Prosper strikes again, really, because I think it was in his interview. He was, I don't remember what the exact question was, but it was along the lines of the roster building. And the way he kind of explained it just made me think like with the Envision one last time, like Prosper's made this roster again, because it was saying he's saying well, all you have to do really, once you've got a jungler and a support and those guys all work together, then the mid and top, as long as they're good on their own, then it kind of fits into pretty well usually. So we went and we got a good top laner, a good mid laner, and it worked out. And then I went and then actually checked on Team Singularity on Gamepedia, and they don't have a GM. So I thought, okay, it does make sense.
Yeah, but they do have Torek.
Yeah.
It's not like Torek. I like Torek, rate Torek. So it's nice to see him, kind of have this team. But yeah, it really made me question. I think the strength of both groups, because I actually feel like Group A is very it's more well-rounded than I think what Group B is. I think Group B, you've kind of, for me, got three strong sides in Fnatic, Barrage, and Team Singularity, where I feel like you've got a few more who could potentially, go into a relegation battle, I think, in Group A. Obviously, we still got Granit, you've got Godsent. Even though Tricked went 2-0, I'm expecting Nordavind to be better than them. That might be wrong. And then you've got Dusty as well, where for me, you've kind of got Kova, and right now, unfortunately for Kova, probably look like the worst side given how Granite have started off. And then again, M&M, I'm not too sure of. The only one I'm a bit unsure of more is actually Riddle. I don't know kind of where Riddle's going to place in this group. That they're a team which I believe that we ranked, I think it's C or something like that, because it's a side which I think is quite hard to judge. But I'm really excited actually. And I actually think that the level is not as big as a drop off as what I was expecting from last split,
Sure.
and that's really surprised me, and I'm really glad to have seen that actually.
Definitely. I think with Group B as well, we said about the strength of each. I think it's quite tricky at the moment, given that so basically more or less all the teams except for Singularity and Kova went 1-1 as well. So it is a bit, obviously it's only week one anyway, so you can take things with a pinch of salt, but it is a bit tricky. I think it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. And yeah, like you say, the kind of bottom three teams of at least on paper, maybe of M&M, Riddle, and Kova haven't looked like they got too much at the moment. I was kind of with M&M's win because one player we talked about last week was Air, mainly coming from the UK angle of the last time we saw him in the UK, it was pretty awful. But that with that whole Enclave 0-17, and in that win at least he looked really good. So interesting to see how that plays out. I think.
Was Air's Eminem's made that? Was he? It was that game versus Kova, right? Where Eminem were mega winning and then very nearly lost, and Air was getting caught out left, right, and center. He was playing Oriana, and he was just he was a magnet. He was just dying over and over. I mean, not to be too rude to him, but that is almost almost lost his team the game there.
Yeah, I remember that because I believe that they were quite comfortable, and then I think it went from a 2K gold lead to M&M to a 2K gold lead to Kova quite late in the game as well. I think I do want to shout out because I'm going to try and do something where I kind of give a game which I actually enjoyed, not just kind of the names involved. I really enjoyed Dusty Godsent. I thought that was one of my favorite games just because of Poor Zombie. Poor Zombie right at the beginning in that with the Mordekaiser getting absolutely ganked and ganked and ganked, and then he finally got a one on. I think it was a 2v1, and he got a 1-for-1. And then it just suddenly switched. And I was like, fair play to have the mental fortitude. I think he went like 0-3. It must have been in like sub 10 minutes or something like that. They just kept pressuring him. So I really appreciate that game.
Right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
It was so
again,
rough for
Taliyah
him.
with setup, like, is pretty. I mean, he has a target on his back the whole game when you're playing Mordekaiser into that. But yeah, that also to turn this praise into a. It turns a positive moment into a negative one. That's like Flaxish for me. He hasn't looked good, and I think I was kind of expecting a bit more from him. Like I think he started like 2-0, and Camille was a really strong pick in the meta as well. And regardless of how the game went, I don't want to say it's like his fault they lost, because I don't think that's fair to say at all. I would have expected a bit more out of him, considering how the early game went, but yeah, definitely fair props to Zombie, because I mean, how he stayed connected in that game, it was that's a struggle by itself, let alone coming back into it and playing as well as he did.
Because it reminded me of and this was in like Forge of Champions. This is such like a deep cut, and I can't remember, but it was like an Azir top game. And I can't remember even who it was against, but they went like 0-6 in like 12 minutes or something, because they just kept repeatedly getting ganked. And I was like, oh no, it's not going to be one of those. Because like you could see like the player's like soul just getting crushed. Because at that point you're like, what am I going to do? Like there's nothing you could do.
I'll tell you guys a secret. I actually got banned for inting from a game like that. I was playing Mordecai as the top, and I was against Camille. Actually, funny enough, I think the jungle was like Carthus. It's not someone you really like expect as a ganker, but I was auto-filled for stars. I'm not a great top laner, and yeah, legit, I was just getting ganked and then when I'd walk back into lane, he's there waiting in the bush. It's like I'm either AFK, which isn't going to work, or and I'm sure there's a way to not feed my ass off here, but I don't know what it is. And legit, at the end of the game, I got an automatic suspension for inting. So I was like, I swear down, I've never been banned before ever. I'm not really that type of player. I did get a chat restriction once in like season 4 for like 3 games or something, but that's it. Apart from that, my record's squeaky clean. And so I asked, being part of the league partner program, fortunately, I was like, is that, can you check, like, am I actually gonna get banned? And he was like, oh, it's a false positive, we'll unban you. And I was like, okay, thank fuck.
Well, yeah, because if that, well, we seem with like high and that, they can get your LPP stripped, can't you, from that? So
yeah.
Had you thought maybe don't tell them and see if hopefully they don't notice, just in case?
Well, the problem is as well, it was a league unlocked account. So yeah, it wasn't my main account, fortunately, so I could have just swept it under the radar. It wasn't even an account. It was, so I had like a main account, I had an account I played on stream, and then had this account which was one for me to try hard to practice off stream. And yeah, man, I got to be more careful with how I practice. That was yeah.
Damn. At that stage, I think let's maybe we move on to some predictions as we start to wrap up the episode then. And obviously we've kind of spoken about the key teams or the key highlights. So I think we'll just kind of whiz through most of them and just quickly give our thoughts. Starting on day 1, we've got Kova against Riddle. Obviously 2 sides we haven't seen a huge amount from just yet. Riddle at least have a win. So purely just going off that pretty much. I'm giving this one to Riddle. Is there anyone that would back Kova? Well, Foxdrop, if you thought Kova were going to beat Fnatic, then you should be all over this one.
I mean, did you see how I predicted that?
I saw, was it Hitbrain, the screenshot of
someone ratted me out. Yeah, it was so I didn't know the schedule for the day, and I didn't have much long to throw my predictions in, and that's fine because I just predict random shit anyway. So insinuated from the other casters' predictions who was playing that day. So if someone had written like, Singularity, Fnatic, Riddle, Cova, and then someone else had written, I don't know, 4 other teams, then I knew this team was playing that team, this team was playing that team. But no one had predicted whoever was against Fnatic, right? Everyone had predicted Fnatic for that game. So I just wrote down my predictions, and then whoever is playing against Fnatic, I didn't know who it was. So I thought, hey, maybe we could have some kind of comeback story, some kind of underdog. And then when the graphic pops up of who I'd actually backed, Cova, and I was like, I thought maybe, that wasn't the team.
Bit too much.
Yeah,
That one.
that was too much. But I think Riddle will take that one as well. I have faith in Bravado.
Yeah, I'm going to
Bravado's
say
name is
Riddle.
Love Rap. Is that a joke?
Is that true?
Is that actually his name? Love Rap. You're joking.
Oh wow.
That-
No,
that is
well, that's what it
genuinely
said
his
on here.
name.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Probably not.
Lee, what's the current scores on the predictions from week 1 anyway? Or dare I ask? Because we were pretty bad.
I'll quickly double check. I'm fairly certain you're in the lead though, Tom. I say that
Oh well, yeah. Can
tentatively
you
as
please
I open it
announce
up.
them officially then?
I think it's only just everyone did pretty poorly, to be fair. So we've got out of a possible 12 for 12 games, you and guest who was Megalodontus for the first week, are joint on 7 out of 12, and I got 6 out of 12.
Still, it's poor.
It wasn't great from anyone really. But then it's the first week. We'll give ourselves that one off because we've not seen anyone play. So how do you know who's going to be stronger? This is the week where we go for 12 out of 12. So then, did you say Riddle as well, Tom?
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna go Cova. Come on.
Then after that we got M&M Barrage. I'm going Barrage. I think on paper and from the eye test so far, I think Barrage looks stronger.
Yeah.
I think that one should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Barrage as well. I think.
How can I?
Oh. No, I'm going Eminem. Fuck it.
How could I go against Mummus? So I've got to go Barrage. If we want him on the show, I've got to keep being nice to him. And I like Kievo. Foxdrop. I do want to bring this up. So we do before the end of the split, we'll do like a predictions of what in terms of like, if we got every single prediction right, here's what the table looked like. And Ents was my top tier, would have won the split if it was just off predictions for me. I predicted them to win. I think like every game, essentially. I always thought, oh yeah, they're the upset team. And it clearly didn't work out that way.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
So I've basically, because there's no Ents, because they've got Kievo and Cefe now, I'm basically just probably going to do the same with Barrage at this point. So, Barrage.
Cool. We'll see how it turns out then. Then after that, we've got top of the table Singularity against the Minnows Fnatic Rising. I'm going to go for a Fnatic upset on this one, and they'll end the winning streak of Singularity. But to be fair, from the first week, that doesn't look like an obvious result. I don't think. Is anyone back in Singularity?
Yeah, of course. F3 Brits. So Singularity.
You know what? I really wanted this is the one I was like, oh, nobody's going to go for Singularity. So yeah, I'll predict Singularity. because if Pride is back, yeah, surely this is so this is a different Fnatic Rising than what we're seeing.
I think it was a 2-game thing. I think he should be back this week.
So I'm gonna go for Fnatic Rising. I feel horrible, but they're not. They're a Nordic org just because they got British players. Where Fnatic is the British org technically. So I'm gonna go for Fnatic.
Cool. All right, and then finishing off that day, Granit against Dusty. I've gone for Granit to keep up their good form. They should be full of confidence still. And to be fair, Dusty didn't look amazing, so I think that one's not too mad. Tom,
I'm gonna go Dusty because hopefully Legions is back, and I did this with Godsent last split because I was like, oh yeah, they won again, but that doesn't mean they're going to win the next one, and they kept doing that. But I don't know. I feel like, is it just the kind of a thing of where they've just got that early synergy, or they've just got kind of that early momentum, kind of a lot of underdog power essentially, where they just want to prove people wrong. And are Dusty just gonna be a little bit better? Because I do think actually, if I look at like player by player, I do think Dusty is better in my opinion. So I am gonna go Dusty.
Fair enough. And then on day 2, then we've got Godsent against.
Foxdrop, what are you going for? Are you going for Granit?
Granit.
Yeah. The smart choice. And then starting day 2, then we've got Godsent against Nordavind. I've gone for Nordavind. Like we said earlier, like obviously on paper they are a pretty strong team, and you'd expect that the week 1 form isn't going to keep up too much longer, or at least they should improve. And yeah, I think even if they're not firing on all cylinders, I think they should have enough about them to beat Godsent, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Nordavind as well. There, I've got faith in them.
I feel like it'd be so bad for the league if Nordavind go 0-3. I want to see a good Nordavind. I think that's the issue. Is that I feel like this team can do really well. So, yeah, please Nordavind.
All right. Then Tricked versus BTXL. Tricked, obviously, like we were saying, looked pretty decent, and arguably looked sort of on XL's level. So they didn't play each other, but from their respective matches.
Yeah.
I'm just going for points. I'm still going for XL anyway. But
I'm going Tricked for sure. Yeah.
Nice one.
I've got a feeling.
I'm also gonna go for Tricked. And this is a legitimate reason. I genuinely am just really impressed with how Tricked are as a team. And this could be one of the games where it actually kind of sees, well, where's the level of Tricked and what's going to happen. Yeah, I feel like if BT make those same early mistakes, and which they've done in the other 2 games, are Tricked going to be a team to kind of let them off the leash? I don't think so right now, so that's why I'm going for them. But I might be making it easy for you here, Lee, at this point.
This is going perfect so far. I'm going to make up loads of points. And then after that, we've got Barrage against Cova. I think that one's a bit more one-sided, surely. You're not going to trouble
Barrage.
Tom.
Barrage, surely.
I'm cool with Barrage there as well.
But Foxdrop, if you want to take Cova, we're more than happy for you to do so. Yeah.
I mean,
You've got to keep some credibility, surely.
No, I won't do it. I won't do it. I'll stick to Barrage.
And then we've got Singularity against M&M.
Singularity.
Yeah, I think that was a fairly straightforward one as well. Tom, any difference?
Yeah, Singularity. I can't say. Imagine if I'm like, yeah, no, Team Singularity. The pseudo British org is going to go 0-2 in week 2. Like, yeah, British Twitter would have my head. Like,
and then starting day 3, then Riddle against Fnatic. I've gone Fnatic. Like we said, obviously Riddle haven't looked great. So
I've gone so many games. You know what? It's funny because like, what they've added like what? 2 games, is it in total? So it feels like, because it was 10 games, was it last split, and now it's 12.
No, I think it was 8 before. So it's still, I'm pretty sure it's still 4 games a day. Yeah. So we've gone from 8 to 12 a week.
So many games. I didn't realize how many games there are each week now.
And Hippering as well casts UKLC, UKEL or UKC. Yeah. Sorry. So he, for like 5 days out of 7, he's casting. I don't know how many games a week he does, but yeah,
it's a lot of games.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of prep as well. That's a lot of prep to do.
Yeah. Fortunately, he's play-by-play, so he just shouts about what's happening on the screen, and then yeah.
True. But yeah, just finishing off the week then. So 3 more games for us to quickly whiz through. Godsent against Tricked. I've gone Tricked. I think Tricked looked better so far.
Yeah, Tricked.
Yeah. All right, I'll go Godsent then.
Nice, got to throw a couple in there. Nordavind against Granit after that. This is where I've...
Go Granit. Come on, go Granit. I know you want to go Granit.
Nice. Yeah. Well, they've looked better so far. I've gone Nordavind because I don't know. I can't see it. Not that Granit are gonna not keep up a good bit of form, but then I think it'd be more Nordavind kind of coming around. But yeah,
I'm gonna go
Nordavind.
Nordavind as well. Like, I don't know. My heart wants to pick Granit though, but my head is like, please, can we have a good Nordavind this week?
Yeah, we'll see. It should be an interesting one. And then very last one, we got Dusty against XL. I've got XL. I think this is a bit more straightforward one as well.
Yeah.
Unless no, okay. So that wraps up the games then. And that more or less brings a close to the episodes. Any final topics? Anyone had something on their mind?
I think.
Yeah.
Go on.
Sorry. Well, I have the important topic of what's for dinner, lads, because I'm quite hungry. I know I'm gonna have some spaghetti. So, what are you guys having for dinner?
Or I'm having a salmon fish cake thing,
Nice.
with hopefully chips. I want chips, but I'll probably have salad. Would be what's gonna happen.
I'm not really sure.
like
My missus is Spanish, and we've kind of got into more of like the continental thing of like having a bigger lunch and then something lighter in the afternoon. So we had lasagna before the episode, so it'd be something lighter, maybe even, I don't know, some biscuits or something, just a little kind of like tea snack.
But no rich teas.
Definitely not rich teas. Definitely not. Actually, just a little side story. We went to Lidl's yesterday, and the Lidl's like coupon app that has like some weekly rewards or like weekly deals, and it was on all of their knockoff biscuits. So we got like 6 or 7 different types of biscuits, no rich teas in sight, and there never will be because they're rubbish.
We went to when I went to Audi today. There was loads of bread, but no Hovis 50/50. I was absolutely gutted. My favorite bread. So
isn't that bread for like 12-year-olds? It just
what?
Their
There
mum
is
is trying to get
nothing
them to
wrong
eat
with
brown
Hovis
bread.
50/50. Yeah,
Crusts off as well.
No, crusts were on. I'm not a monster. I'm not a monster.
Fair enough. All right then. To finish up then, we are obviously hosted, as we can see, by the UKEL. So we'll just have a very brief look at the UKEL table. They've just finished off the first week. I think you should be able to see that on the stream. Yes, you can. That's gone okay. So yeah, good starts from Demise, London, and Nerd Rage, all going 2-0. Struggling on the end of Hive, Monster, and Viperio from the first week, going 0-2, and then Lucendi and Mythos there fighting right now for the last playoff place at 1-1. I'd say the highlight for me of some of the games that I saw, there was a Kai'Sa top from Sin on Demise Academy with TP and Flash. No, not with TP. It was TP and Ignite, I think. Kamai's top that won the game. So yeah, hopefully we see more of that in the next week. And
I think you've got to appreciate, Nerd Rage looked like I said it to them. They lost the promotion tournament to the UKLC, coming back with a vengeance, and it seems like they are at this point.
Exactly.
It's very interesting to see Nerd Rage. I'm really excited to see how they do. But we're happy that Munster are in the league, and let's hopefully that they do improve from an 0-2. It's the least ideal start for them, but give them credit for still being there. So
exactly. And then we'll take just a very quick look at the upcoming games. So this Thursday we've got Viperio against Monster, Demise against London, Lucendi against Hive, and then finishing off with Nerd Rage against Mythos. And that's this Thursday from 6 p.m. GMT. And with that, that pretty much wraps up the episode, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. You can obviously see us here every Sunday at 4 p.m. for the live episodes, and otherwise if you're watching later on either on YouTube or Spotify, you can obviously follow there and watch as you always do as well. And that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.
Oh, and I can't believe that G2 lost today. Mental. No, I don't know. It'll be out on Monday, isn't it? So at the other end, G2, such a dominant victory today. So just cut that one in for me, Lee.
Yeah,
if you could do.
Cool. All right, that'll do then. See you later.